Previously, Hunter Cha defeated the Black Knight. She then asked Jinwoo, "You said you'd summon your strongest, didn't you? Please summon him now." Hearing that, Jinwoo replied, "You might get hurt," but she insisted. As she spoke, a dark aura emerged behind Jinwoo as he summoned Baru. He asked her, "Are you sure you'll be okay?" Jinwoo understood something very clearly. Most shadow soldiers were weaker than their living counterparts. But Baru was an exception. Unlike others, Baru had been created for a single purpose: to slaughter hunters. If he fought Cha Hien with his full strength, her chances of victory would be almost non-existent. With that in mind, Jinwoo ordered him to defeat her, but without causing harm. The moment the command was given, Baru's aura erupted. A wave of mana exploded outward, shattering lights and windows throughout the building. Cha Hien staggered for a moment under the sheer force of it, astonished that Jinwoo had once faced this terrifying being himself. Baru then completed his monstrous transformation, ready for battle. But before the clash could escalate, Jinwoo commanded him to sheath his claws. He warned that life would become troublesome if Cha was injured during this test. Startled by the reminder, Baru immediately retracted his weapons. Spotting her chance, Cha lunged forward with a swift attack. Yet in the blink of an eye, Baru was already behind her. Recognizing the same movement from earlier, she countered with a decisive strike, determined not to be deceived again. But her sword never landed. Baru caught it effortlessly in one hand. Calmly, he offered to show the difference in their strength if Jinwoo allowed him to fight without inflicting harm. Cha refused to relent. She pressed forward, swinging again and again, yet Baru slipped past her attacks with frightening ease. He wasn't even moving from his position, simply dodging at close range. Realization dawned on her. This was a gap in speed and power she couldn't hope to close. Then, without warning, Baru stepped right up to her face and released a piercing scream. The shock wave blasted her off her feet, sending her skidding back across the ground. From the sidelines, Jinwoo silently concluded that the outcome was already decided. Still, Cha Hien rose to her feet, unwilling to yield. She declared she could continue, even after seeing the overwhelming difference. Jinwoo frowned, questioning what drove her stubborn resolve. Recklessness didn't suit her, not after recognizing Baru's true power. Yet he couldn't ignore the truth. Baru was no ordinary shadow. He was intelligent, merciless, and born to kill. Jinwoo could still feel that killing intent seeping from him like a blade at the throat. Watching Cha's stance, Jinwoo worried. If she tried to gamble on a weak point, he could only hope she wouldn't make a fatal mistake. As the clash dragged on, Baru reminded Cha Hien of a simple truth. Every creature instinctively knows whether it is predator or prey. To prove his point, he lunged forward with deadly speed, declaring that prey defying a predator could never be tolerated. Cha reacted just in time, dodging his first strike, but Baru immediately prepared another. In that instant, he noticed her gathering mana for a counterattack. She released the blast with precision, landing a direct hit on his shoulder. Yet the blow barely scratched him. Baru's hardened exoskeleton absorbed the impact and reduced her weapon to shattered fragments. But this was exactly what Cha had planned. With her remaining strength, she prepared her strongest skill. She knew she only had enough mana for a single attempt, one strike that had to count. Summoning the radiant sword of light, she pierced through the layers of Baru's armor, finally breaking past his defense. Alarm surged through Jinwoo as he sensed something dangerous awakening within Baru. A buried command, etched deep in his very existence by the Insect Queen, stirred once more. Annihilate all enemies. The words echoed through Baru's mind as he branded Cha Hien an enemy and shifted into pure killing intent. Jinwoo's order to stop went unanswered. Cha closed her eyes, accepting what seemed like the end. A deafening explosion shook the battlefield. When she opened her eyes again, she realized she was still alive. Jinwoo had intervened in time, shielding her from certain death. Baru snapped back to his senses, recoiling in horror at his own loss of control. Dropping to his knees, he begged Jinwoo for forgiveness. Jinwoo, however, turned his attention back to Cha. He questioned her resolve, asking why she was risking her life for nothing more than an entrance test to a nameless guild. A hunter of her caliber had no reason to gamble everything on something so trivial. Then almost to himself, he wondered if her determination stemmed from a personal interest in him. The thought left Cha momentarily stunned, while Jinwoo admitted inwardly that he still could not read her true intentions. And then in a voice so soft he almost missed it, Cha Hai-in whispered her answer. She admitted that perhaps his guess was not entirely wrong. The scene shifts across the ocean to America, inside the headquarters of the Federal Bureau of Hunters. Seated at the top floor, Director David Brennan listens intently as Michael Connor and Mrs. Sellner report back from their meeting with Jinwoo. Brennan presses them for answers, demanding to know why they failed to convince such a powerful hunter to join the United States. Michael explains that according to Mrs. Sellner's vision, Jinwoo is unlike ordinary awakened. She describes him as one of the kings, a title she reserves only for the strongest of the strong. The director is stunned, asking if that means Jinwoo rivals a national-level hunter. Mrs. Sellner begins to describe what she witnessed when she looked into his mind. Normally, awakened hunters channel their strength from a place known as the other side. The bond between hunter and source appears to her as threads of light, sometimes so bright that they blaze like radiant kings. But when she gazed into Jinwoo's eyes, she saw no such bond. Instead, what looked back at her was a boundless darkness. To her, Jinwoo was darkness itself. The director quickly questions whether she is implying Jinwoo is evil. But Mrs. Sellner shakes her head. She clarifies that she is not speaking of morality, but of origin. Jinwoo does not rely on a connection like other awakened. His power is his own, untethered and unbound by the limitations of the other side. In theory, it means his strength has no ceiling. Michael, shaken, realizes what she is saying. Jinwoo can continue to grow without limit. Mrs. Sellner confirms this with grim certainty. Director Brennan rises from his chair, thanking Mrs. Sellner for her insight. He then motions for Michael to follow him as they descend into the depths of the Bureau, all the way to level 24. Inside the elevator, Brennan recalls the first S-rank gate in history, the catastrophic breach that consumed the West Coast. Michael remembers it well, the deadliest disaster in hunter history. Brennan explains that during that raid, America recruited the strongest hunters from across the globe with the promise of untold rewards. Only 5 survived, and those survivors became legends, granted authority equal to entire nations. From that day forward, they were known as national-level hunters. Among the horrors of that tragedy, one creature stood above the rest: Kamish, the inextinguishable flame. A dragon so powerful that it slaughtered hundreds of elite hunters on its own. Yet from that disaster came an unexpected reward. As the elevator doors open, Brennan invites Michael to witness it with his own eyes. They enter a cold storage chamber deep below ground. Inside, preserved and sealed away, rests a rune stone taken from Kamish's corpse. Brennan explains that for 8 long years, no mage-class hunter has risen to the rank of national level. And so, this rune stone has waited here in silence, its immense power seeking a worthy heir. With solemn pride, Brennan declares that Kamish, even in death, will bestow a gift upon their great nation once more. The story shifts to Jinwoo, who is in the shower, staring at his reflection in the mirror. He still can't believe that someone actually confessed interest in him. He thinks to himself that ever since his reawakening, his appearance has changed. He has grown taller, his physique has become sharper, and his skin has cleared up completely. He wonders if it's all because of the passive effects from the skill Will to Survive, which restores any damage to his body. But even so, he questions, am I really that attractive? Later, he walks over to his sister Gina's room and suddenly asks her how she would rate him. Confused, she replies by asking in terms of what? Jinwoo clarifies that he means in terms of appearance. Gina looks at him like he's lost his mind and says that, to her, he just looks like a bum. Annoyed by her blunt answer, Jinwoo sarcastically thanks her for the biased opinion. Gina begins kicking at him in irritation, but Jinwoo warns her to be careful or she might break her leg. He reminds her not to forget who her older brother is, questioning how someone like her even managed to get into school. She fires back, claiming that she's actually at the top of her class. The conversation shifts as Jinwoo tells his sister about his plan to form a new guild. Gina teasingly asks if that means he'll be the big boss now. While she gossips about it over the phone with a friend, Jinwoo wonders out loud about a possible name for his guild. His first idea is Solo Play Guild. Gina immediately shoots down the name, pointing out that it doesn't make sense. Since Jinwoo commands a whole army of shadow soldiers, he isn't exactly a solo player. Realizing she has a point, Jinwoo asks for her suggestion. Gina proposes the name Agent Guild, explaining that the character means to move forward. Jinwoo finds himself actually considering the name seriously. The scene transitions to Hunter Cha Hyin's home. She is lying in bed, tossing and turning as she recalls the events of earlier. She can't stop cringing at herself, admitting that she basically blurted out her feelings for Jinwoo. Embarrassed, she thinks he must see her as crazy. But then again, she reasons, it was only natural to feel drawn to someone who saved her life. Still, she admits to herself that things don't feel okay at all. As she reflects, another memory resurfaces, something she experienced while unconscious. In that vision, she remembers drifting into darkness until a hand reached out and pulled her back. The voice that called to her belonged to Min Byung-gu, the healer who had sacrificed himself. In her vision, Byung-gu pleaded with her to pass on a message. He told her to warn Jinwoo that he must be cautious of the dangerous power that exists within him. Startled by the memory, Hye-in suddenly sits upright, realizing that she had completely forgotten until now. The next day, the focus shifts to the Night Guild's headquarters. Park Jong-soo listens as his vice guildmaster, Yoon Kyung-tae, reports that a massive gate has appeared in their territory. The association has rated it dangerously high, though not quite S-rank. Park Jong-soo frowns, saying that if the raid goes wrong, their entire team could be wiped out. Kyung-tae adds that if it truly were an S-rank, abandoning it would have been the only logical choice, since they lack the manpower. But because they are one of the top 5 guilds in Korea, public opinion would turn against them if they ignored the gate. On top of that, the Fame Guild would surely swoop in and seize the opportunity. This infuriates Park Jong-soo, who slams his hand down, asking if they're supposed to simply hand over a gate that appeared right in their backyard. Kyung-tae, intimidated, insists that he was only presenting the situation. At that moment, another guild officer, Yoo Jin-hae, speaks up, suggesting they could form an alliance with another guild. Jong-soo hesitates, pointing out that asking for outside help would make it obvious they don't think they can clear the gate alone. Their reputation could take a major hit. But then Jin-hae reminds them of someone, Hunter Sung Jinwoo. After a moment of silence, Jong-soo admits that working with Jinwoo could actually be an advantage. The public might even see it as a bold move if they were to join forces with him. He asks what Jinwoo has been doing lately. Kyung-tae reports that Jinwoo recently cleared a gate that opened in the middle of a highway, but otherwise has been keeping a low profile. He asks if Jong-soo would like him to arrange contact, but Jong-soo shakes his head. Something this important shouldn't be handled over the phone. Instead, he orders that they go meet Jinwoo directly. The story then shifts back to Jinwoo, who is in the middle of another discussion with Jinho. Jinwoo tells him that he's leaning toward naming their guild Ajin. Jinho nods enthusiastically, thinking that anything is better than Solo Play Guild. With the name decided, Jinwoo remarks that all they need now is one last member to officially form the guild. Curious, Jinho asks what happened with Hunter Cha. Jinwoo replies that she isn't quite the person he's been searching for. Shocked, Jinho protests, pointing out that Cha Hye-in is a powerful S-rank hunter with an excellent record and undeniable beauty. From his perspective, she's the perfect candidate. But Jinwoo calmly explains that what he's looking for is someone different, not just strength or fame, but someone trustworthy and uninterested in political guild activities. Jinho thinks for a moment and says that he knows a few people who might fit that description. Before they can continue, there's a knock at the door. Jinwoo rises, half expecting to see Hye-in again. But when he opens the door, he's surprised to find Park Jong-soo, Yoon Kyung-tae, and Yoo Jin-hee representing the Night Guild. After polite introductions, they sit down and explain why they've come. Jong-soo shows Jinwoo a video recording of the gate in question. The footage reveals a massive structure radiating enormous waves of magic energy. Jinwoo asks if it's an S-rank gate, but Jong-soo clarifies that it's close, one of the largest ever seen in Busan. Hearing this, Jinwoo begins to wonder to himself if he should reach out to an old acquaintance. reminiscing about the last time he was in Busan and treated to sashimi. Park Young-soo explained the real reason for his visit. The association refused to issue a raid permit because the Night Guild had no S-rank hunter on staff. He asked Jinwoo to join the raid so the guild could legally claim the gate and lead the operation. In the background, Young Yun-tai distractedly considered asking Jinwoo for an autograph. Park then put an offer on the table. Normally, an S-rank hunter took a 10% share for participating in a raid, but he was willing to increase that to 20% for Jinwoo. Jinwoo countered immediately, demanding an even split, 50-50, and added a condition. He would help only if the Night Guild formally allied with his new group, not just with him as an individual. He mentioned that he had just established a guild under the name A-Jin, Jin Guild. Park tried to bargain back, proposing a 40-60 split instead. Jinwoo made it clear he wasn't negotiating out of need. He wasn't the one who required help. Park reassessed the young hunter and concluded he was no pushover after all, then accepted Jinwoo's terms on one condition. Jinwoo would personally handle the dungeon boss. With the deal settled, Park reminded Jinwoo the gate had appeared a few days earlier and insisted the raid must begin by tomorrow at the latest. Park invited Jinwoo to leave with them immediately, but Jinwoo declined, saying he would meet them the next day after finishing some errands. Mid-conversation, Jinwoo's phone rang. He excused himself to take the call. On the line was his mother. They arranged to have dinner together that evening. The following day, a huge crowd gathered near the gate in Busan, mainly hunters from the Night Guild preparing for the raid. Park Young-soo, already armored and waiting, checked the time and worried that Jinwoo might be late, noting they would depart in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Jinwoo prepared at home, glanced at the sky, and wondered if his sister Gina had brought an umbrella, then used Shadow Exchange to teleport directly to the site. The scene cut to Gina's school, where students complained about an art teacher who unloaded his duties onto them. Entering a dusty, long-unused classroom, one student suddenly noticed something unusual, a sealed gate tucked into a corner. He reassured his friends that the gate was safe while sealed and reminded them only licensed hunters could enter once it opened, estimating it would take about a week to activate. As the students talked, tiny cracks began to spider across the gate's seal, a sign they failed to notice. Without warning, a hand burst through the fissure and grabbed the head of the boy standing closest. He fought and screamed for help, but the creature crushed his skull in front of his classmates. The remaining students watched in horror as monsters poured out of the gate. Hunters acting as nearby scouts felt the rush of excitement at the scent of blood, but they suppressed their instincts and prioritized the mission. One of the creatures sniffed out human presence and told its companion that the building was as complex as a castle, ordering the others to be summoned. The monster declared it would slaughter all humans there, fortify their position, and then begin the real hunt. As it stepped into the corridor, the beast pounced on students before they could react. Cut back to the raid staging area. Jinwoo arrived and remarked that the gate was even larger in person. He surveyed the assembled teams, mining and collection crews alongside the assault force, and counted 13 A-rank hunters and 20 B-rank hunters. He thought to himself that the guild's roster of A-rankers matched the reputation of a top house. Before he could settle, a swarm of guild hunters bombarded him with questions about his abilities and whether he would lead the raid. Uncomfortable with the sudden attention, Jinwoo froze until young Yerim stepped forward to quiet the group. Yerim introduced herself as an A-rank healer assigned to the Night Guild's assault team and tactfully removed the pressure from Jinwoo. Park Young-soo then stepped up to address the gathered hunters and explain the plan. Park announced he would lead the raid operation. Several members protested, arguing that Jinwoo, as an S-rank, should be the one to lead. Park clarified Jinwoo's role. Jinwoo would be assigned to the rear to secure the team and protect their withdrawal. Not as an insult, but as a tactical assignment. Some hunters bristled, offended at the implication they needed protection, and tension briefly flared. Park smiled wryly and admitted their blunt talk was simply the guild's atmosphere, a show of confidence more than disrespect. Jinwoo accepted that interpretation and remarked that such swagger meant they believed in themselves. With roles defined and grudges kept in check, the raid party closed ranks and proceeded into the dungeon. The scene opens inside the Hunters Association Emergency Call Center, where an operator answers a frantic incoming call. A terrified girl reports a dungeon break at her school and tells the operator she is hiding in a bathroom. She explains that she and her friends were suddenly attacked when monsters poured out of a sealed gate. The operator reassures her that hunters are already on their way and urges her to stay calm. The operator asks for a description of the attackers. The girl says they looked familiar from television, green-skinned creatures. Hearing that detail, the operator's voice tightens. She realizes the monsters are orcs and warns the girl they can track prey by scent. Before the operator can finish, too late, an orc finds the caller, and the frantic screams end the line. Back at the school, students stream out of classrooms as orcs hunt down anyone trapped inside. Some students manage to escape through the school gate, while others unfortunately became prey to the orcs. Two orcs compare notes. They lament losing half their prey, but shrug it off. There are still plenty of victims. One orc explains they blocked the main escape route and will sweep upward to clear the remaining floors. A group of students barricades themselves in a classroom with desks and chairs, hoping to hold out. Their barricade proves useless. An orc smashes the door and staggers through, blood matted across its body. Panicked, one student bolts for a window, but as he reaches it, two red eyes lock onto him, and an axe cleaves his head before he can react. More orcs flood the room, surrounding the terrified survivors. One orc detects magical energy in the crowd and tells its leader there is a witch among the students. The orc leader orders them to eliminate the magic user first. At the back of the classroom, Gina and Han Songyi huddle together. Gina calls desperately for her brother. Han Songyi, though only an E rank, declares she's awakened and prepares to fight, while Gina tries to hold her back. An orc swings an axe toward Gina, certain the smell of power is hers, and declares she must die. The girls close their eyes, bracing for the blow. But when Gina opens them, she finds a hulking orc standing between her and the attacker, having stopped the strike. Recognizing the protection, Gina realizes her brother had stationed these soldiers around her for safety. With a single punch, the large orc sends the attacker flying through the ceiling, leaving the remaining monsters stunned and three massive orcs converging to guard Gina. Cut back to the raid team inside the dungeon. Park Young-soo suddenly alerts the party. There's an ogre. A towering, two-headed ogre materializes before them, swinging a massive weapon. Park conjures a protective barrier and absorbs the beast's full strike. The shield holds. He orders Young Yuntai to close in on the ogre's face. Yuntai runs in, manages a risky move that blinds the creature, and shouts for everyone to strike while it's vulnerable. The assault team charges, hacking at the beast while mages rain magic upon it until the ogre is torn apart and scorched. After the kill, Park calls for a regroup and admits they are facing more than he expected. Park warns Jinwoo that encountering a twin-headed ogre this early is bad news. He asks if Jinwoo knows the ogre's other name. Jinwoo replies that twin-headed ogres are called gravekeepers. Park grimly confirms the implication. If gravekeepers appear, an army of undead is likely nearby. Young Yuntai frets that he jinxed them, and the hunters debate whether to keep pushing. But then they notice something strange. The undead do not charge. Instead, they stand perfectly still, staring at the hunters with cold, patient eyes. The team instinctively takes a step back, unsettled by the unusual behavior. Jinwoo, who had expected a brutal fight in this high-tier, A-rank dungeon, senses something off and realizes an urgent matter requires his attention. He tells Park he must leave immediately. Park protests that, without Jinwoo, the raid could become dangerous. Jinwoo answers Park calmly. If they are worried, he will call someone equally reliable to watch over them, then makes his decision to take action. The assembled hunters freeze as a familiar monster appears, and they catch a terrifying recognition. It is the same ant-type creature from the Jeju Island raid. Jinwoo cuts through the formalities and then orders Beru to protect the humans and handle the monsters as he sees fit. Beru answers with a fierce cry and proceeds to slaughter the surrounding monsters, leaving the hunters stunned at the display. When the slaughter ends, Jinwoo tells the guild that the shadow soldiers he left behind will assist them. 20 of those shadows will be more than enough for this dungeon. He prepares to depart, but the hunters plead, "Are you really going to leave after unleashing your shadows?" Jinwoo, annoyed, offers to dismiss the shadows before he goes if it will make them feel safer, but says he doubts that would help. His final check shows Shadow Exchange still has 1 hour and 42 minutes remaining, so Jinwoo begins to run for the exit. Park stands in stunned disbelief as Jinwoo rushes away. While sprinting, Jinwoo notes he keeps receiving faint signals from the shadow soldiers he had left with Gina. A nagging, uneasy feeling builds in him. He encounters a line of undead blocking his path. Furious, he orders them out of the way. To his surprise, the undead bow and kneel, clearing a path. Jinwoo wonders briefly whether they recognize him as a necromancer able to command the dead, but he pushes the thought aside and presses onward. Reaching the gate, he summons Kaizel, his wyvern, and mounts it. Hunters watching gasp in recognition. Jinwoo commands Kaizel to fly straight to his sister and boost the wyvern's speed and strength by 50% so they can reach her as quickly as possible. The episode ends here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and see you next time.